So for my digestive system chapter discussion, I chose to do the general histology of the gastrointestinal organs. I did this because they were hard for me to kind of memorize because they were different names than all the other layers that we've been dealing with in the respiratory system and the cardiac system and the blood vessels and arteries and stuff like that. So that's why I chose to do this one, because I struggled with the names of the layers and stuff. So first we have the mucosa, which is the very internal of the organs. It's like the visceral layers that we've been dealing with. So the mucosa, or mucous membrane, has three components. One, an inner or superficial epithelium lining the lumen of the GI tract. Second, we have an underlying areolar connective tissue called the lamina propria. I don't know how to say that, lamina propria. And three, a relatively thin layer of smooth muscle termed the muscularis mucosae. So the first layer is going to be the mucosa, of course. Then you're going to have the submucosa. So these two are easy for me to remember. This is how I remembered them. So you have the mucosa on the very inside. You're going to find mucus on the insides of your nose, not the outside, right? That's how I remembered that. And then submucosa is kind of easy because sub, below. That's going to be, if you have first place, second place is always going to be below first place. Submucosa, or sub first place, I guess. Submucosa would be the external layer to the mucosa. And then you have your muscular. Okay, let me go over the submucosa real quick. So the submucosa is composed of either areolar or dense irregular connective tissue. Either way, connective tissue. And has far fewer cells than the lamina propria. It also contains this is also important, it also contains the submucosal nerve plexus, which is nerves and nerves that fine branch into both the mucosa and the muscularis, which is the next layer. Muscularis is the next layer. The nerve fibers and the ganglia are collectively referred to as the submucosal nerve plexus. It contains the sensory neurons, the sympathetic, postganglion axons, and let me see if I can find it here, and parasympathetic ganglia. So next layer we have is the muscularis. The muscularis typically contains two layers of smooth muscle, which is easy to remember because muscularis, muscle. Exceptions to this pattern include the esophagus and the stomach. So the stomach and the esophagus have this muscularis layer. So generally these muscularis layers have two sublayers. The inner circular layer, which is the fibers of the outer layer, are oriented lengthwise along the GI tract. So I mean, it's going along the GI tract. That's the inner circular layer. The outer longitudinal layer excuse me. Okay, so one more time, we have the very inner surface is going to be your mucosa. These have little finger-like projections called the lamina propria, I think, the little finger things. Those are the lamina propria. Then outside of the mucosa, you have your submucosa, which again is really easy to remember because you have mucosa, submucosa. Submucosa is below or outside. Then you have your muscularis layer, which the muscularis layer is really easy to remember as muscles. Muscles aren't going to be directly on the inside of an organ, right? They're going to be mid-layer or external layer in order to provide that contractions and Next you have last you have the serosa layer. The serosa layer contains the serous fluid and just helps kind of with the movement and reducing friction on between organs while they're moving so that they don't burn up. And that will be it for my digestive chapter discussion.